Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the weekend warm-up for the 2018 Japanese Grand Prix. Now, coming up, I'll be going over all the track stats, tyre information and weather for the race in Suzuka, covering 3 news stories in the rundown, and of course Matt will be taking you on a lap around the circuit. Don't forget you can find timestamps to the video in the description and also as a pinned comment. But let's get started by having a look back at last year's race. It was a Sunday to forget for Sebastian Vettel. There were spark plug issues on the grid for him, which left Ferrari frantically trying to get the car fixed and ready for the start. However, despite getting going, his race day didn't get any better as he suffered with a lack of power early on, and that led to him having to retire, leaving his title challenge in tatters. Carlos Sainz crashed out early on in his final race for Toro Rosso. Nico Hülkenberg's DRS got stuck open. That forced him into retirement. Marcus Ericsson crashed out in his Sauber at the Degners, and Lance Stroll had a puncture, which saw him added to that retirements list. And yet again, we had a great scrap between Kevin Magnussen and Felipe Massa, with the Dane pulling off a wheel-to-wheel super aggressive overtake into turn 1. It was also a cracking drive from both the Red Bulls, and as Lewis Hamilton struggled with tyre vibrations late on, Max Verstappen was within touching distance of the victory. But all in all, it was a pretty decent Grand Prix last year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get another one this weekend. As for the key stats from last year, Lewis Hamilton took pole position on Saturday with a 1:27.319, and as I said there, he also went on to take the victory on Sunday with Max Verstappen finishing second and Daniel Ricciardo rounding off the podium in third. Max Verstappen was also voted as driver of the day, and the fastest lap of the race was set on lap 50 by Valtteri Bottas, and that was with a time of a 1:33.144. As for the track itself, the track length is 5.807 kilometres, or if you prefer, that's 3.608 miles. There are 18 corners around Suzuka, 8 to the left and 10 to the right, and there will be 53 laps on Sunday. Now, McLaren say that drivers are at full throttle for 65% of the lap, with Williams saying 68% and others saying 66%. So I think 66% is a fair compromise. And the Mercedes website says that the highest lateral G around the track is 3.9, and of course that is at turn 15. When it comes to DRS, the FIA have not added any extra zones for this weekend, so it is just the one out of turn 18 and down that pit straight. But apparently the drivers did ask for a second zone this weekend, with a number of them requesting that they be able to use the system through 130R. That would have been phenomenal to watch, however, that was rejected by race director Charlie Whiting. Drivers can overtake around Suzuka though, so we should still see some action come Sunday. Obviously with the DRS down that straight, we will likely see moves into and through turns 1 and 2. After that, it's a case of staying close up the hill and through the Degners and waiting for the hairpin at turn 11, where, as we saw courtesy of Kamui Kobayashi a few years ago, moves can be made, and the dive bomb is a popular one. So keep an eye on Daniel Ricciardo there. But after that, drivers will give it a go through Spoon if they get the opportunity, and of course the tight chicane at the end of the lap, unless they fancy pulling a Fernando Alonso and making a move around the outside of 130R. The tyres available in Japan are the medium, the soft and the super soft, with the medium and soft being the mandatory tyre for this weekend. When it comes to tyre choices for the drivers, both the Mercedes are taking 7 sets, as is Max Verstappen. Both Ferraris are taking 3 more sets though of those super softs with 10. Daniel Ricciardo in a second Red Bull will be taking 8 sets of the super softs, with Perez and Ocon doing the same, and that's also mirrored by the 2 Renaults, the 2 Toro Rossos and the 2 Haas boys, as well as Ericsson and Leclerc. Both Williams drivers Stroll and Sirotkin will be taking 9 sets of those super softs, but McLaren are only taking 4 sets each. That could be interesting come Sunday. And just a couple of other tyre stats for you. According to Pirelli, the blistering sensitivity for both the front and the rear tyres is medium, but as ever the stress levels around Suzuka on those tyres is high. But if the weather forecast is anything to go by, there should be plenty of sets of dry tyres available for qualifying and the race for all the drivers. At time of recording, the weather report is for light rain throughout the day on Friday, and heavy rain is forecast for Saturday morning. So that rain could affect all 3 practice sessions, but it is expected that qualifying will be run in the dry, and as for the race, it is currently forecast to also be dry. However, depending on where you look, that forecast is evolving almost constantly at the moment. But I have to say, if we get wet practice sessions and a dry qualifying and a dry race, as we've seen in the past, that could spice things up quite nicely, as the teams would obviously have very little up-to-date dry track data. Now, before I get into the news rundown and my one to watch, let's have a closer look at the circuit then, as I hand you over to Matt for a lap around Suzuka.
So here we are then, ladies and gents, ready again for another track guide for the F1 2018 Japanese Grand Prix, coming out of the final corner, ready to start our lap around one of the, obviously, teams and drivers' favourite tracks on the Formula 1 calendar, full of history as well. Of course, it is the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. Down in towards turn 1, approaching speeds of nearly 200 miles an hour, 325 kph, and make sure you get the car slowed down all the way into 4th gear through the first corner, and then you come through the S curves. Obviously, make sure you get as close to, but not hitting the curves. They will very, very easily punish you as you come through these corners. The left, the right, the left, the right, and finally the left as you come out through Dunlop here. A little bit of a lift, just could not get fully committed through there in this Toro Rosso. Now coming through in towards one of my favourite corners on the track. Through the Degners, just about lift off through the first part there, and you want to try and carry as much speed all the way down into 3rd gear for the second part. And now down in towards the hairpin here. Kamui Kobayashi obviously made this place very, very famous with his dive bomb overtakes over the last few years there. Making sure you get the power nice and tidily on the exit as there is a long run in towards the next corner here. All the way back up into 8th gear, over 300 kilometers an hour. Once again, here we should brake just at the 50-meter ball, get the car through the first part, straighten up just a bit, but then down one extra gear as you come through on towards the X here. Now onto one of the longest acceleration zones around this circuit, all the way down the other pit straight here, obviously used for the East circuit, if I'm not mistaken. And then you come through to one of the most legendary corners in Formula 1. Through 130 are completely pinned very, very easily in these 2018 regs there. Brake at the 100-meter board into the Casio Triangle, obviously famous for Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost's crash in 1989 there. And out of the final corner, make sure you avoid the bump, and that is a lap around the Japanese Grand Prix circuit.
So there we go, a lap of the Japanese Grand Prix circuit. Once again, thank you very much to Matt for doing that for me. And don't forget, there is a link in the description to Matt's channel, so make sure you head on over and check out his content. Let's jump into the news rundown then. 3 headlines ahead of this weekend. And kicking us off, Sebastian Vettel says that Ferrari have not lost direction, and that's despite a series of very disappointing results. Now, following the summer break, the German took victory in Belgium, and it was believed that Ferrari were the team to beat. However, just 3 races later, he's found himself 50 points adrift of Lewis Hamilton. But despite that gap, Vettel arrived in Japan cheerful and relaxed, and said that the team had made progress and that they were where they wanted to be in terms of development. He also added that contrary to what people believe, the Scuderia have not had the dominant car this season, and Seb is also hopeful that Suzuka will suit the car much more than Sochi. Ahead of this weekend's Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton has said that he believes he is driving better than ever before this season. As said previously, the Mercedes driver is leading the World Championship by 50 points with just 5 races remaining, and is the overwhelming favourite to take a 5th world title come the end of the season. And Hamilton says, quote, "This has been the best performing year of my career." The Brit also said that the team did not expect to be as strong as they were last time out in Sochi, stressing that it's difficult to know to what extent they have improved. And talking about the Japanese Grand Prix, the championship leader predicted, and I'll quote again, "It's going to be an intense weekend." And finally, for the rundown, during today's press conference, the drivers had their say on the proposed changes to the current qualifying format, and I think it's fair to say that Sebastian Vettel is not a fan and is certainly not keen on the idea. It was confirmed earlier this week by Ross Brawn that F1 was looking at adding a 4th session and 8-car shootout for pole, if you like, to the current qualifying format, but he did say that those changes would not be implemented for 2019. And Sebastian Vettel has questioned the need for changes and went down the route of less is more, stating, quote, "Without going too deep, my personal opinion is nowadays we need too much entertainment to be happy." He also added that fans tend to focus on the final qualifying session, and adding another session won't change much. But let me know your thoughts on the proposed changes to the qualifying format in the comments section down below. On to my one to watch then, and this time out I've gone for Max Verstappen. He does arrive in Japan off the back of 2 stellar drives, I think it's fair to say, and the Dutchman has tended to go well around Suzuka in the past. As I mentioned earlier, he was within touching distance of the win last season, but crossed the line in 2nd place, and that was the same result he managed to pull off in 2016, finishing within 5 seconds of Nico Rosberg. And back in 2015, he finished 9th for Toro Rosso ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz. So basically, he has form in Japan. And also, as we saw last season, he does seem to enjoy this last run of races on the calendar, and he almost steps up another gear. So I do fully expect he will have another good weekend, but you've got to throw Daniel Ricciardo in there as well. If the Red Bulls have got the pace, they could be in the fight. And I will add as well, keep a close eye on both the Force Indias. It is a track that should suit their car quite nicely, and last season they were strong throughout the weekend, with Ocon and Perez finishing the race 6th and 7th respectively. That is it then for the weekend warm-up. And what are your predictions for this weekend then? Who do you think will take pole position on Saturday? Who are you expecting to win on Sunday? And which driver is your one to watch? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, as some of you will know, I am having a few issues with my computer at the moment, and so unfortunately content will have to be kept to a minimum over the weekend. It's basically going to be a case of doing what the PC will allow me to do, if that makes sense. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be able to get something up tomorrow, but I can't guarantee it. But however long it takes to record and edit, I will definitely be back for the qualifying report on Saturday. And as for Sunday's content, there will be a post-race stream, but when it comes to the race watch-along, I'll do some testing on Saturday night and make a decision then. I do just want to take this opportunity though to say thank you to everyone for your patience and your understanding of all of this. And I can promise you that these issues will be resolved as soon as possible, and I will be looking to upgrade my equipment over the winter. Don't forget you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.